So a friend of mine performed some certain rites, but was kind of confused. According to him, this is not his first time of performing these rites. So I decided to help him, understand what is happening. So the first question he asked was, honestly, sometimes I try to understand how they truly get to hear when we make these affirmations. Yeah, because I encouraged him to get his Igbo affirmation items, which includes Nzu, Edo, Oji, and the rest of these items that we use within to perform IGO OFO in Igbo spirituality. So I told him that sometimes when I perform IGO OFO, I end up having goosebumps. Now, it happens, although it's rare, but sometimes when I'm really, really in need of something and I'm pure of heart and body, as at the moment I'm, calling upon my ancestors, I feel some kind of goosebumps, especially when I start singing. And also, I told him, yeah, that then, and I told him again, physically, I'm a representation of all my spiritual, familiar, and ancestral forces. So if I can hear myself, they can hear me as well. And this Igofo process is just like speaking things into reality. That's why we call it affirmations. We affirm things, we put things into the universe and expect it to come back to us. Now, those words we speak come out and transform into air. Because our people will tell you na mmụọ ji ikuku aga. Then when it now floats into the universe, we can now say that all our affirmations and our intentions are floating into the universe. And that's why when we perform some certain rites, after performing these rites, you will see them bringing this nsiegbe. They light it up and it goes up in flames into the air. And the dibia or the Ezemo will say Ogabago. So that's just the rationale. Now, I now tell him, remember when as kids we usually say Okubuzo Erugube Chuku or Okubuzo Erugo Chukunte. Then that means we are indirectly making reference to Igofo because we use our mouth to basically affirm things that we want it to manifest into our life. That's the Igbo system. So the second question he asked was, but then why do some of our sacrifice get rejected? Why do these spirits reject some of the sacrifices that we offer? Then when you now go to another Afa, they would say that you didn't do the work well. And there is a variety of number of reasons why Ajamado Choro, these sacrifices that we performed, were rejected. But the only thing I was able to tell him is that different sacrifices differs, different principle, different process, different items. Now, basically, or let me say generally, there are principles that are guiding these sacrifices that we make. And most times, when we do not follow these principles, it's as if we are pouring water on stone. So when it comes to cross-checking your work after you've performed it, I told him that I don't encourage people to check if their work went through or not. He asked why, obviously. I said, look, first of all, look at the Igbo system. These rituals and sacrifices are basically rites of passage. We need to understand that one of the reasons why we perform sacrifices as Ndi Igbo, we call it chụọ aja ka ikpe maa ndị mmụọ, and we also look at it as mmadụ esochi ụzọ. Now, I told him that these rites we are supposed to be performed at infancy when we were like, we don't even know what is happening. That's the moment where they perform the rite of Egbago. Then as teenagers or anything, no, these are the rites that are supposed to have performed for us at the moment of our birth and as we progress or as we grow. So each of these rites that we're now performing in this our adulthood or adult age are things that should have been done for us during our teenage years or at infancy. So after these sacrifices, and I also encouraged him and I told him that after each sacrifices, the only thing you can actually do is to forget that you've performed any sacrifice. Perceive it as a rite of passage, as something you're supposed to do in order to clear your path. Now, once you've performed all those sacrifices, you can now move on from it and focus and channel your energy in other things, probably the work you do or any other, growing yourself and improving yourself. Then when you perform Igofo, You remind these ancestral forces of the agreement you had with them. You remind them of this agreement, and once we do them is through IGO OFO. As we're performing our IGO, we can even say things like, okay, remember that this is the promise, the agreement that me and you people had, and this is what I said I'm going to give if you're able to fulfill this intention for me. You remind them. Now, and I told you one of the reasons why I don't encourage people to go to Alpha to check if the sacrifices they performed was successful is because you would end up being confused. And this thing has destroyed so many people. You perform a right today, you go and check through the day, did it go through, did it? And at the end of the day, you come back confused. Because by the time you move to two, three, four DBS to check if the work you did, the spirit work you did was successful, you end up getting confused. He now said exactly because Alpha keeps saying different things. And the reasons why Alpha says different things is that each time you go to Alpha, a certain spirit that wants to manifest or materialize itself will materialize itself. Now remember, in our cosmology, we believe in ihe so mmadụ wee bịa ụwa, which means entities or spirit beings or energies that accompanies an individual into this world are pretty much, they are pretty much elaborate and there are many. So we now move them from Undio to Chi to Anwu to Mwosu Chi Mother. Now different spirit beings that accompanying an individual's Chi or Onyowa into this world. When I talk about Mmili all the entities and spirit beings inside that Mmiri. So they are enormous, they are numerous. Now, originally the idea is to one after the other acknowledge and align with them. But because of how things are, because of westernization, Christianity, our parents no longer perform these rites. So once we've gotten to the age where we are returning back to our ancestral belief system, what we are now doing is that we're now looking at this thing and we're saying, okay, this thing does not actually make sense. What can we actually do? How can we fix this? And how can we even align ourselves? And when we now decide to basically gather ourselves and do them all at once, it becomes a problem. So you now tell somebody you're going supposed to align with this, align with this, align with this, and the person is looking at the price. Because all those things now need money to do. So it becomes some kind of something that is heavy on the hand for most of us. I now also told him here that now when we talk about Ndotu or Ife Somado or Ebiowa, now each of these group can now decide to materialize themselves at any time. So you can go to a Dibiafa, let me give him the letter A. A would see probably your chi, will now see your Ndichie and now tell you Baroso Mepi Fechigi, your chi is angry at you, your Ndichie, they say that you turned your back at them, that you need to come and fix it, you need to attend to them. Tomorrow you go to Dibia B and Dibia B will tell you that you did not acknowledge Umuada, that you only did something for Ndichie, you did not acknowledge Umuada, that you should go and do Umuada issue. And your Ndotu, they are also angry at you. You go to Dibia C. Dibia C will tell you, Jee mee ife ndị mmiri. Go and meet your ndị otu. Jee kwa ibu mmiri. Jee mee ile ọma na mmiri. All those things. So all those things will just be coming in and coming out. Now, honestly, the fact here is that we need to acknowledge every single aspect of ihe sanyi wee bịa ụwa to avoid what we call mmụọ ịdọ mmadụ ndụdọ, which means the spirit to basically drag you, cause misfortunes, and lash out at you. Now, because that we've separated from our spiritual system on account of our parents being overtly Christians, now what is now happening is that all these entities that we are supposed to have acknowledged are now clashing, coupled with the fact that some of our parents destroyed our ancestral shrines and open, and all those things are now accumulating into the problem that most of us now have. So it now becomes, which one would you now attend to, and which one now would you now basically not attend to? Because he even said here, okay, but they are too much to acknowledge. Even the ones I know and the ones that I don't even know. Which is true. Ọ na-ebuzi most of us aka. So what I now told him is that you don't worry about the ones you don't know. That's why some people will come and say, I want to know my EUA. And you ask that person, have you gone to Afar before? And your EUA comes up. The person says no. I'm like, why are you now looking for your EUA? Why are you looking for something that is not looking for you? Ndị EUA, when they come to, hardly if you go, when they come to basically make you to see that they exist, they would come. But most of us are now seeking them out. And most CBS are now using it as an opportunity to basically, take one or two things from people. So I just told him, don't worry about the ones you don't know, but worry about the ones you already know. So primarily in my book Chinezumezu, I talked majorly about Chimad and Ezumezu, the closest ones, the primary ones, the ones that basically you're supposed to start from them. And they are no longer, they are not much, they are just your chi, your agwo, your ndi chi, your ndi miri. If you have a spirit spouse, you acknowledge your spirit spouse. This tiny aspect of them, you meet up with them, you align yourself with them, then eventually, as time goes on, you will now be looking at the different aspects of them that you will now be interacting with, which now includes maybe you have like an ogo, maybe amos issues, yeah, hey. But you start from the beginning. So finally, we need to understand that the Igbo system is not an easy fix. It takes time. So when we know that we have all these entities and spirit beings to acknowledge and align and interact with, it becomes foolish if we just want to basically avoid or ignore all of them and jump into Ogun, or try to basically carry all of them at once. But we can actually do them gradually. Maybe for instance, we're in August. From now to December, and you were able to go back to the village, you can start with knowing your chi. You begin with the chi element. Perform everything concerning your chi rights. Go back. Continue your ego for without no expectation. You already said your normal affirmations. This is what I want you to do for me. This is what I want you to do for me. Then you come back again. You can pick up one right again and you perform them. Make sure that you first of all you've knocked on the door of all these spiritual entities, even if you just have kola nut to present. Present your kola nut and go back and continue working. With time, you'll be able to have, aligned yourself fully with all these ezumezu, with all these spirit forces that are indigenous to you. So I don't know if anybody learned anything, but if you did or if you do, kindly follow and subscribe. And if you have any question, feel free to use the comment section. I'll be watching. Like I say.